Hello comic book fans, today we're talking about a brand new title called, if I'm pronouncing this right, Okurinu. I'm an American. I pronounce it the best way I possibly could. But it's Okurinu, and the name itself in Japanese folklore means escort dog, and there's a lot of lore behind that. So it's an actual thing, the wolf within, and we find out what that means within this story. Which when I was reading it. It reminded me very much like a Japanese-inspired video game, based off of just how the lore and the action in the story comes together. And the story starts off with this boy being born, but he wasn't born just like any other regular child. He was born to be a weapon for this family. And this is a I would say, if you're familiar with The Darkness, right, Jackie Estacado and the mob, this is kind of like that in the sense of he was raised and born to be a weapon to pretty much take out people for this family, right, for this business, right. And he is, when they birthed him, they gave him the spirit, which is a very deadly spirit to have, and then they made him a weapon. And his style is very much Japanese based, but also, like, I can't help but get a sense of like Hellboy in there as well. And even as a child, he's pulling off these assassination hits, and this is not too long after he was even born. So he's doing this at a very young age, and we're taken further into his life very rapidly just to show what he's known for most of his life so far, what he has been doing. And he has been a weapon. He's referred to as like the Hellhound. He's referred to as other things because at this point he is a legend, and he is very known for pulling off these brutal and swift kills and assassinations for the wealth and protection of his family. And another very important thing to add here is that this is very far into the future, right? We're not in the 2000s, we're not even in the 3000s, we are in the 4000s when it comes to the time span that we're in. And there's a lot in the story. Like, I'm telling you the story, but I left a lot of stuff out, particularly because the creator asked. But if something looks like something happened in this story, chances are it did not happen, or it took place, but I left out what happened after the fact, right? There's a lot in this story that, even when I'm doing this video, you get a good idea of the story, but if you pick up this book yourself and you're reading it, you're like, holy cow, like, yeah, I did not see that coming at all. And as he's pulling off this next hit, this boss, this guy he's trying to take out, he's literally a video game boss, right? It's like you have the first stage, but he immediately unlocks his second stage, which he calls like his third eye. And as our main character, the wolf is what I mostly refer to him as I was reading this story, mostly because of the spirit and his style of hunting. Just the character himself I just found very awesome. But this guy turns into the final boss, like in a video game. And the thing I will have I would have this as a criticism of mine, is that I wish we saw more of this guy's power and how deadly he actually is, right? Because he tries to pull off his moves and his powers, but none of it even remotely actually does anything to this guy. He just runs upon him with his sword and just dismantles him with the swiftness and just takes him out easy and just ends him. And I was like, dang, that was quick. I thought there was about to be a little bit more here. Nope, he is out of there. So I mean, you could just say that that's a testament to how powerful he is, right? To how powerful the wolf is, to how his strength is, that not even somebody that can the power of like nearly a god or third eye or whatever couldn't even, match up to him at all. This demon lord couldn't even match up to him whatsoever. And I find in that aspect that's very interesting. I wish we had a little bit longer with the actual fight and combat between those two characters. And now at this moment in the story, we are finally meeting the family, his half brother, or his brother, and then the father, and they're talking about the business and what is happening going on. But it turns out that he completely went against the father's wishes, went against the rules of the situation, and now other people, these otherworldly beings, have been brought into the fray because of it. And it completely messed up the situation, because again, this is like it's like gangster situations, but it is on a broader, more supernatural, otherworldly thing that's being involved here. And the half brother, to his, to be fair to him, he did try to fend off these bad guys as they was coming for him and his father, right? To be fair to him, he was trying to fight them off, but he was no match for this guy, right? This big guy, this demon-looking guy. He just grabbed him by the neck, and we do not get to see what happens after that. But we are introduced back and we see his love interest. And because it's so far into the year, this story has a very good amount, a very good splice of like cyberpunk. And I feel like his, the love interest, his love in the story provides that, right? That cyberpunk-esque, into the story. And then you also have this otherworldly, dimensional, situation and aspect to the story. It's a lot of different aesthetics involved in this story because of where it's taking place and how far in the future it is. And we see this part in the story where the brother comes and actually finds his half brother that he refers to as a dog and a pet in this story. And he sees him and his girl, and that fight happens. What happens after that, I cannot show you. But like again, when you get the book, it is crazy, but I left a lot out purposely. But the story skips to many years, and he's not even on Earth anymore. And again, we're so far into the future to where we're not just stabilized on Earth. There are multiple other places out of Earth that this story takes place on, and in this world. And at this point, he's no longer working for his family. He's no longer working for his father. He has no ties to him anymore. Instead, he's taking jobs, hunting down, being a bounty hunter, and using his skills in other ways. But then he gets caught up by this giant, space dragon, like this monster. And he was not ready for it at all, because the panel shows his eye opening and he realizes that he's not where he wants to be, and he gets completely chomped down on, and his arm is gone, right? This thing bites all, it bit his whole body, and his arm is the only thing that did not go into its mouth. And then his other arm is also being torn apart because he's slowly being digested on top of that, right? So one thing this story really provides is you think this is going to be one story, right? But then it takes you to a completely different direction, and then you're like, what the heck just happened? But then it provides a variety of genres within one setting, and it does it well. I would say it can be, maybe to some readers, it can be overwhelming how quick things are moving, right? How quick things are moving, and what happens when it's moving that quick, right? Because this story, it's mostly like this happens, bam, it gives you this, and it gives you this, and it gives you this at once. and it's a very pound for pound story, right? Some things are left to linger, but not everything, right? A lot of it is like this happens, then it moves you to this section. Okay, then this happens, right? And then it moves at a very, I would say, a quickish pace when it comes to showing you and telling you the overall story of this character. But I did enjoy it overall, I would say. And the crazy thing about it is we're never done, because after he takes that job, after he nearly dies, then we have his friend, which is, she's been helping him get these jobs, and he nearly dies from that, but he's holding on. And one thing I will give them in the story is that they did a very good job showing the character younger and older, and the art itself showing that not a lot of people can age a character, right? Like, they can't draw a character well and then age that character up or age them younger, and you can still tell that's the same character without it being obvious. This character, the artist and this story does it very well with him being younger and older and aging him. And we even get his brother, which is now back in the fray. He's now working for the same guy that pretty much ruined his life and ruined his father's life. He's now working for him, and he's working for him, and he hates his brother, or what he calls a pet. But the part that his brother plays in this story is that he is notified that his brother's not only is his brother back in town, that he was seen with his once lover again, and he's going to use that to his advantage overall, because he hates his brother with a passion, because in his eyes, or he sees that his brother, his half brother, is the reason for why everything happened to his family, and he wants to torture him because of that. So now we have that classic brother hate rivalry in this series. And and one thing I very much want to say is this is a very unique style storytelling. There's a lot of original stuff in here, but when it comes to the world building, the characters, the motivation and stuff like that, it's very cool. And again, for me, for some reason, this reads and this interacts for me more like a very constructed video game more than anything else. And as he is coming back to go against his brother and to get his lover back, to get his girl back, he's chasing down this guy, and he's simply just trying to get answers from him, right? He's like, I don't want to hurt you, but I will hurt you. And this is because not only has he not let the spirit out for years, right? The wolf spirit, right? He's not let that out for a while. So he doesn't have that same, bloodlust. He doesn't have that same, type of anger in him anymore, but it's coming out very slowly over time. He gets in a fight like this, like I would assume he is some type of alien or mythical monster from another dimension. Whatever this guy is, he runs upon him with a freaking minigun and blade, and they're about to go at it. And at this point, the wolf is known as a legend, and he knows that. So he's like, do you know how good this would be for me if I could take you out? But obviously, overall, that's not going to happen. And, he just, he gets ended very swiftly, I might say. It was somewhat a battle. It was more of a battle with this than the third-eyed Bolair, or whatever that demon guy's name was. This had more time to fester as a battle. Even though it was, still quick, it was still longer than that battle, right? And he severs this guy's head clean off just to get answers out of him. And we get more lore on how the spirits work and on the spiritual realm and how that operates in this world. And we get that when he's asking this headless man, right at this point, questions. And this is when he finds out where his brother is. and he tries to go through the front door, right? He tries to be like, calm about it, but that doesn't work for him overall. Like, even though he acts first, he ended up having to dismantle both of these guards, and he has help from his partner's situation. She's on the inside, and this story, it went from one thing, and then it went to a otherworldly, business job adventure slash thing, whatever you want to say, and now it's back to something else. So you get a lot of different, like I've said before, you get a lot of different things when you're reading the story. And the character overall, he's awesome because like he got these new mechanical robotic arms, and that adds more to the character. But then he has this spiritual otherworldly power side of him, and he's such a cool concept of a character. And these side characters, like this this chick right here, she's badass as well. Like, she's allowed to be badass as well without it overshadowing or having to put another character down to do that. And she's recognized for me in the story as also being a badass. And when I was looking at this guy when he got his new silver arms, I'm like, that's a lot like Winter Soldier, right? Like the design and how it looks. I said that's a lot like a very Winter Soldier-ish type style. I very much like that, but it just makes him look cooler overall with these extra things about him. And then he's walking through this club, he's walking through this joint, and he's just slaughtering everything in sight, and until he gets to the floor he needs to get to. And nothing happens in the story is that he can be injured, right? He's not unstoppable, we've seen that. But if you've seen the beginning of the story to the other half of the story, when he's not letting that wolf side, the wolf spirit out, when he's not letting the spirit loose in control, he takes more fatal damage easier. And we even get a moment with the spirit saying that you have fear for somebody else's well-being and not your own. And like, he has fear in him, and it's not because of him, it's because he's trying to save his love. And then we have this full-on battle with him and his brother, which is very much like when you're flipping the pages and you're looking at this, it's a very fun, cool looking battle and concept. And when him and his brother is going back and forth, when they're having that what would seem to be a final fight between each other, when they're hitting these super powered modes between each other, it's very cool to see. And even though the story for me, some things could have breathed more, seeing this final fight to an extent, it did pay off, right? It did seem like this was a long time coming type of thing for the story, as you read it and it goes along. So that was very cool. But then again, there's a lot in here that I purposely did not put in here. But then we see this part, and what does this mean in the story? Again, a lot of stuff here I did not put in here. So this particular panel, this page, leads because of something else happened that you're just gonna have to get the book and read for yourself. And that's all I have for this video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you for watching.